Hey folks, here's your weekly video. I just want to go over what I'm asking you guys to do this week. So I want your first draft of your podcast. And again, why are we doing a podcast? This is one of the most popular genres. Millions, tens of millions of Americans listen to this every day. Not a lot of Americans read academic essays. So we want to reach Americans where they're at with this assignment. So we're writing in this more popular genre of a podcast. I've asked you to do an outline. I've asked you for your sources and the annotated bibliography. So now we're ready for the first draft. So think about it. What is your purpose? Who is your audience? And how are you going to reach that purpose and that audience? So your purpose should be to inform, to maybe persuade, definitely to educate. Right? We're not really doing more popular-based podcasts. We're doing a more academic podcast. And you've got your academic and newspaper sources to back you up. So I want to go through how to make a rough draft of a podcast very quickly. We had a video last week under audio help and the GarageBand video. Gary, he was our YouTube demo person. He showed us how to make a GarageBand video. So I'm just going to do it in my own way. And again, if you're using Audacity, which is a free program, that is it's so similar to GarageBand. So they're virtually synonymous. So Mac, GarageBand is built in. Non-Mac, you're going to turn to Audacity. You can also use your phone, and our readings from last week talk about how to do that. But I'm going to show you how to do GarageBand/Audacity. So I think the first thing you want to do is go to YouTube free audio library. I just Googled YouTube audio library free. And this is a library of sounds of free, copyright-free music for your podcast. You should have intro music and outro music. So this is where you source it responsibly, right? We're not using Beyonce's Lemonade. We're not using Kendrick Lamar. We can't really use popular, famous music because, well, quite frankly, they'll sue us. So you can do it, right? If you really want to have Beyonce music, then you would need to analyze Beyonce's music and lyrics, right? The podcast would have to be about her music, and then you can play it as called fair use. Does that make sense? So if I want to study climate change and in hip hop, I could do Childish Gambino's This Summer and analyze the climate change lyrics in that song, and I could also play that song. But the podcast has to be about that song. I can't just rock out to Kendrick Lamar or Childish Gambino and then have a podcast about making my own dog food, right? Which is what my podcast is going to be on in a second. So go here to YouTube Audio Free Library. I'll just show you how this works. So as you can see, you've got sound effects or free music. I would start with the free music. I would be like, okay, what is the mood of my podcast? So look under mood or genre. Let's see if this works. Right, okay, this is like dramatic happy. Kind of weird happy. Right, this is calm, happy. If you've got a funky podcast, you could do this one. We're not doing romantic, so. But this is where you go for free music. So find, right, there's like thousands of these. So find the track that you like. They're all a couple minutes long. Then you go over to download and save it, okay? So right here. So that will download it and save it to your desktop. And so I've already done that. It's right here on my desktop. So then the next thing you can do is, right, so get your music first, then pull up Audacity or pull up GarageBand. So let me show you how to do that, right? Just like our video said last week, click on the microphone, click on create. You want to turn the metronome off, you want to turn the count in off, and you want to turn it to time, not beats, right? Because we're not making music. So there you have it. And then you just hit record, right, which is the red button, and easiest thing, if you're doing an interview with a family member or a friend, I would bring them into the space with you, hit record, and your computer will capture the sound very well. So I think that's the easiest way. And then we'll drag in the audio, and I'll show you that in a second. So let me just start. Hey, my name is Johnny. This is my podcast on making your own dog food. If you love your furry friends and your cute critters like I do, and you want them to live a long life, then you may want to make their dog or cat food by hand, because research shows, and I'll get to this later, that if you make your dog and cat's food by hand, you can extend their life for 3 years rather than feeding them kibble from a bag, which research also shows has often sat on the shelves for at least 6 months. So I want the freshest, the healthiest food for my Fido. What about yours? I think if we really care about our animals, we'll take the time and the little bit of resources to make our dog food by hand. And I'll be sharing out some recipes I've made. Chicken, peas, and rice, chicken and pumpkin. Real simple. Boil the chicken, boil the pumpkin, mash it together. Bravo. So I'll be sharing out from my new cookbook. And there you have it. Lots to come. I'll be interviewing my mother. She's sort of fed our dogs kibble for decades, so I want to bring her into some contrast. So thank you. Sit back, fasten your seatbelt. Okay, and then I want to stop. Okay, so folks, as you can see, I've got about a minute and 20 there, and you see my track is up here, right, that I just recorded, right? And then I would bring in my interview person. I would start engaging the sources. I have a lot of sources on Google Scholar that I found on making your own dog food, right? I would want to summarize. I would want to sort of bring in these sources. What do they say about, making homemade dog food versus, big agro? So there's a lot of sources here. Raw dog food, making pet food at home, right? I can get into, there's been a lot of recalls, right, in the dog food industry, right? It has less FDA regulation than human food. So if you think human food has problems, right, this is a scantily regulated industry, right? So of course I want to make my dog's own food, right? I don't really trust kibble from a bag and the low regulations. So that's how I would bring in sources. So going back to my podcast, I've got my track down, right? My audio track. So it's really easy. Look what you do. You just drag in the music that you want and put it in the lower quadrant, right? So I've got my music on my desktop and I just dragged it in, okay? So it should, there you go. So I want to bring my play bar back to the beginning, and I'll just play it, and you can hear that the music is going to be undergirding me now. Let me just start. Hey, my name is Johnny. This is my podcast on making your own dog food. If you love your furry friends and your cute critters like I do, and you want them to... Okay, and you can see I dragged the sound down of the music, so it's about like 15%, right? Because I don't want it to drown out my voice. So folks, that's really it. I used about 6 buttons here. And so it's, if I can learn this in an hour or two, you can too. And again, Audacity is so similar to this, right? It's like just a different color. It's more gray. And again, if you really want to get into it, you can start changing the voice. You can make natural vocal, right? There's all these things you can do with changing my vocal. Gary gets into that in the video from last week. You don't have to do that, but you can. You can always do more. Okay, so that is real easy how to make a podcast, how to do the technology. And so I'm asking for a couple minutes rough draft for this week. And also you'll upload that to the assignment box. And then I want you to upload this again as an MP3 to the discussion forum where I'd like you to peer review 2 other podcasts from our class, right? And I give you some really helpful peer review questions if you need them. So you've got those 2 things this week, right? The discussion where you peer review and upload this draft so that I can give you my feedback. Okay, thank you, folks. If you have any questions, please email me. I've been meeting with a bunch of people. It's been awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. How do I stop? There we go.